Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about 5 methods of sword power generation. Okay, so we're talking about medieval combat with a sword, and the 5 methods that I use, or the way I have categorized them, is hip rotation, step momentum, rotational cuts, or what people a lot of times will refer to as Molyneux, hand leverage, and arm. Okay, arming a shot or punching it out. Okay, so we're gonna talk about these 5 methods and ways to use like different combinations of these 5 methods. So I'm gonna put this over there so we can have it as a reference. So the type of sword that I'm going to mostly be talking about using here is a Type 14, which is really well suited for fighting on foot, all right, for combat. Now, important for us to keep in mind that medieval knights were primarily mounted warriors. They preferred fighting from horseback, and the type of swords that they used, okay, were best suited for fighting from horseback. So this type of a sword over here, which is a Type X, as you can see, it is longer and it has more blade mass. Is the type of sword that was probably more common. Okay, so let me put this other sword down. So if you're fighting on horseback, this type of a sword gives you good reach. Okay, and what we're doing is we're transferring the momentum of the horse to the sword. Okay, so as we're riding along, we have an opponent there, and basically as we ride along, we make that cut, right? Or so if somebody's in a horse across from us, right, we're cutting like that. Or if you got somebody on the ground, okay, you can cut down like that. So this sword, it has that reach so that you can cut down and reach somebody on the ground or across from you on another horse. Okay. Now, if you're on the ground, okay, this sword is very blade heavy. Okay, not heavy sword; it's just blade heavy. Okay, and a good method to use with this sword is hip rotation. Okay, and this is the most common method that is taught to people that first start sword fighting. Okay, because it's easy, it doesn't require a lot of upper body strength, and it's something that anybody of any size can use. So the way that's typically taught is you start off on your shoulders and you use your hip, okay, to make that cut. Okay, so all the power generation is from down there. Okay, and you can make this the other way. I can rotate my hips the other way to make that cut. Okay, so what I'm doing over there is I'm rotating my body this way to make the cut that way, rotating my hips this way. Okay, and then you can do this in combination where you're here, come around to that side. Okay, so this is all about that hip rotation. So it's a very common method. One of the disadvantages of this method is because it uses the hips. Anybody study the hips basically come out first. So if somebody sees my hip go like this, they pretty much know that that's about to follow. Okay, so there's a little bit of tell with this. Okay, now as you get better, stronger, etc., you can minimize a little bit of the hip. You can hide it. You can hide it behind the shield, right? So people can't see your hips. So there's ways to deal with that. So then people start following your shoulders to try and get a tell or an idea of where the sword is going. But that's one of the disadvantages of this style. Okay, I'm not saying that it makes it bad. It's just one of the things that people will look for. They'll look at your hips because they know that when the hip comes out, the sword is basically gonna follow it more or less. Okay, so this sword, with this type of sword, if I'm gonna fight with this sword, even though I have good upper body strength, what will happen is if I try to arm this, right? If I try to arm the shots, okay, what happens is this gets very tiring, right? Just because it's long and it's it's got it's a fairly straight edge sword, like these parallel edges. So a lot of the blade mass is up here. So what happens is as you start getting tired, right, you start getting slower and slower. Okay, so that's just, if you're not using your hips with this sword, what's going to happen is you're going to, especially as you start getting tired, you're going to get slower and slower and slower. Okay, so the type of sword that I like to use is this, you know, so that was a type X, this is a type 14, okay? So this type of sword, it's shorter, right? So you can see with this sword, I can swing it down without hitting the ground. It's tapered, okay? So this sword is gonna move a lot faster. I just have a little bit less reach with it. Now, let me just show you, as far as simulators, so this type X sword, right? If I hold it here, you can see that it balances right about there, okay? So the simulator that I built for this, okay, plastic, right, balances about the same place. Okay, both these swords weigh close to 3 pounds, right? A little bit less than 3 pounds. But the same thing with this type of a sword, I pretty much have to use hip with this sword, so I don't tire myself out. Okay, so with this type of a sword, with this type of, what I say this was, a type 14 sword. Okay, this is the simulator that I have built. So this balances closer to the handle, right? And the reason is because it's tapered. Okay, so with this simulator here, because of the basket over here, this acts as a as a larger pommel, and it balances about the same place. Okay, so because it's balanced the way it's balanced, that allows me to basically flip this over very easily from one side to the other. Okay, so with this sword, because the balance point is over here, if I rotate this from one side to the other, right, it's flipping around at this point over here. So the tip is probably moving a little bit too fast for people to see, but if they pay attention to my hand over here, right, they got more time to see, because my hand is moving from here all the way to there, so there's a lot more movement on the hand with this sword. Whereas with this type of a sword, because the balance point is closer to my hand, as this thing moves, there's less movement side to side as this goes from one side to the other. Okay, so because I primarily don't fight from horseback, this is the type of sword that I fight with. Okay, or this is how I balance my swords. Both weight wise, I think it's weighs something like 2 pounds 14 ounces. So my simulator weighs about the same. It's got about the same length, and it moves in a same way. Okay, so again, this is ideal for fighting on the ground. If I was fighting from horseback, this doesn't have a whole lot of reach, right? You can see I can't quite reach there, so this is not really good for fighting from horseback. Okay? So let's keep going. As far as the different methods of generating power, with this type of a sword, yes, I can also use the hip rotation. Okay, again, I can rotate it that way or that way. Okay. The other method that I can use with this sword is a step momentum. Okay, so if I'm holding the sword here, right, if I step into it, well, again, just like the analogy before, where you're riding on a horse and you're transferring the momentum from the horse to the sword, well, I can also create forward momentum and step. Okay, and step, and again, I'm transferring momentum from my body to the sword from that forward motion. Okay, so that's the step method, and it's actually very common with the rapier. So with the rapier, the way people often fight this is they'll extend the hand and then step in, right? Extend the hand, step in. So they're stepping into the shot, okay, using that forward momentum to make it. So they're not even swinging the sword, right? They're not even depending on this, because they're extending the sword from out of range before they even make contact, and then just basically falling into the shot. Okay, so that's a step method. Okay, the next one is going to be the rotational cut, or the Molyneux. So with the Molyneux, usually I'll start with my elbow high up in the air, and I'm using these lat muscles here to generate power. Okay, so the lat muscles, which go from here to down here, these are the muscles that you use when you do your pull-ups. Okay, so they're very strong. So even if you're a small person and you only weigh 100 pounds, okay, well, every time you do a pull-up, each of your lats is pulling about 50 pounds. Okay, so if you're a 100-pound person, so that is more than enough power, right, to lift your elbow up and then basically tighten this muscle over here and make that cut. Okay. Okay. So I can go basically head, or I can go leg. Let me get the other sword. Rather, let me get the simulator just because I don't want to cut these ropes over here that are holding up the shield. So I can raise up my elbow here, boom, there, boom to the leg. Okay, so that's all coming from, there's no hip rotation, right? There's no hip rotation. There's no step, okay? I'm just standing here, boom, boom. Okay, that's where all this power is coming from there. Boom, and I can change if I hit there, I can change if I want to hit there, change if I can hit there. So there's a lot of stuff over here. In fact, I can even go to this side here. The way I will attack this side, from here, I go there, okay? So from here, so using this rotational cut, I can attack all 4 quadrants, okay, of my opponent, okay? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants, okay? So from here, I can attack there, right? I can attack there, I can attack there, I can attack there, okay? So I can attack all 4 quadrants, you know, just with this muscle over here. Okay, so that's your Molnay or your rotational cut. Sometimes people will refer to it. Okay. The next one is going to be the hand leverage. Okay, where basically let me get a sword without a basket. So for hand leverage, okay, I'm basically loosening up these 3 fingers here, and I'm closing this, and I'm closing my hand. Okay, and I'm gonna hit this area right here. So just without me moving my body, okay, you can see how I can make a cut. Okay, so now is that sufficient? Okay, so for unarmored combat, that would be sufficient. So let me get a rapier out. So with the rapier, if I wanted to make a cut, especially to somebody's fingers, right, in real medieval combat, okay, that is a sufficient cut, okay, to somebody's fingers, okay, right, or to the top of their head, right? You know that, you know, in unarmored combat, okay, that would be a sufficient cut, okay, just that. With the cut and thrust sword, okay, right, cut and thrust sword. Now it depends. What is my opponent wearing? Is he unarmored combat? Is he in mail, or is he in plate? You know. Now this has more blade mass, okay? So I'm not moving anything else except my fingers here. So just because I got a sword with slightly more blade mass, all of a sudden that pel is moving a little bit more, and that's just using my fingers, okay? So I can add stuff now, okay? Because so let's say I'm fighting somebody, I got a cut and thrust sword, and they've got mail armor now. They got mail armor, okay? Well, I can combine closing my hand with the step momentum, right? So I can basically step forward. Okay, so now I'm combining two different power generators. Okay, I am stepping forward into the shot, and I'm closing my hand. Okay, or I can, let's say, combine the rotational shot, the Molnay, with closing my hand. Okay, okay. Okay, so I'm not, or I can do a hip rotation, right? I can do a hip rotation with closing my hand. Okay, so I'm basically taking these 5 elements, right? Hip rotation, step momentum, right? A rotational cut or a Molnay, okay, and I can combine them all with closing my hand. Now, sometimes I may not want to close my hand, different reasons, right? Yeah, I'm gonna cut in here because I was drawing a blank before. So if I have somebody that likes to punch block, either with their shield or with their weapon, that is a good reason why I may not want to use this this hand power generation technique, right? Because, you know, if I got somebody that as soon as I initiate a shot, they're throwing something into my sword, and my hand is somewhat loose, it might destabilize me. Okay, so that's a one scenario, right, where I may choose not to use the hand, you know, hand leverage power generation technique, and I might use one of the others that we're talking about in this video. Combine the other two. I can do maybe some hip rotation with the Molnay, right? So Molnay, I don't need to move my hips to come over the top like that, okay, right? But I can also add it. So here, boom, okay. So here I'm actually stepping too, right? So I'm stepping off to the side, and I'm combining, and that's one over there. I'm doing Molinet, okay, step, and also hip rotation. Okay, so so you can kind of pick and choose and put these different power generators together to make your shots work. Okay, so we covered the hand, the hand leverage or closing the hand. So the last one in this, okay, is when you're arming the shot, okay, or just punching the shot. And the reason why I left it for last is, usually when new fighters start fighting, all they want to do is arm the shots, right? They want to basically just arm the shots. And people will say, no, don't arm the shot, never arm the shot. And the reason they will tell them not to arm the shots is because they'll never learn anything else on that list if they're just arming the shots. And also when people are beginners, they're not able to hit hard enough just arming the shots, okay? Now, as you get better, that's something that you can now bring back into the fight, okay? So when we're talking about arming the shot, what we're talking about is punching, basically, okay? So I'm here, I got my shield here, and I'm basically punching the shot. So to punch, how do you punch, right? So when you punch, you're not really just arming it, because I call it arming the shot, right? But I'm really not just arming the shot, because I am putting a little bit of body into it. Not as much body as maybe we were talking about before, but we can bring more in if we want to. But what I'm doing is I'm punching the shot, I'm tightening up my core here, I'm tightening up my legs, and I'm just, I'm just punching the shot forward. And at some point, you also want to bring this into the fight and start developing it, okay? Because let me just get a sword out here for a second. Use this sword. So as far as arming a shot versus using one of the other power generators, it can be a faster shot if you're not tired, okay? So the way I will use it is a lot of times I'm here, right? So watch what I'm doing, okay? So I'm here, right? I'm going body, body, arm. So I'm going body, body, right? Because I'm putting body into the shot, body, body, and then arm. So that's going to come in as a very fast shot. And what I'm also doing is I'm using a little bit of closing the hand, kind of just like finish it off. And I can do it to the other side as well, right? So I'm here. Now here I'm going to go hip, hip, okay? And all I did there is just punch it out, and I gave it a little bit of closing the hand, all right, to give it that extra pop. And I changed the tempo, okay? So again, so I'm going hip, hip, arm, okay? Arm and a little bit of that, okay? So what you see there, let's get back to this for a second. So these are the 5 power generators that I use, right? The hip rotation, where we're either going this way or going the other way, right? Where all the power is being generated down here. The step momentum, where I'm stepping into the shot, okay, to generate that power. The Molinet, where elbows up, and I'm using the lat muscles here to generate the force, either there or low. So I can hit all 4 quadrants from up here, right? Either here, 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 here. All 4 quadrants can be hit from there. The hand leverage, where I'm just closing my hand, and then arm, where I'm just punching the shot, right? Either punching it like this, or punching it like that, or punching like this if I'm going vertical, right? So I can go left side, right side, or vertical, okay? So I can take these 5 different power generators here, and I can mix and match them in different combinations to change the tempo of the fight, to fight from different positions, and as you get better, because this is definitely a more advanced video, right? If you're a beginner, you're probably up here, just hip rotation, right? That's the only thing that you're going to be working with for a while, okay? But at some point, especially if you've got some upper body strength, you're going to be like, that's not what everybody else is doing. They're doing other things, right? A lot of people, they're doing other things to be faster, okay? So at some point, you're going to start adding some of these other things in some mix. You might start adding some step momentum, right? Where you're stepping into the shot, right? And you can change your angle, right? Because you can step that way, right? Or you can step this way, right? As you're stepping, left, right, you can, move your back foot as you step, okay? To just if it's something you got to practice on the pedal, see what it does for you. Okay, the rotational shots. Okay, where your elbows up, and the key to this is really elbow up. So the key to this is really elbow up, right? Elbow has to be up because you got to stretch out this muscle. You need to stretch out this muscle here so that when you contract this muscle, you can go there, you can go there, you can go there, you can go there, right? So with just with this, I can get to all 4 quadrants, okay? All right, and then you can add a little bit of the hand leverage into that, right? Which is on that lift, and then we can add punching the shot, right? So I can go, I can go basically Molyneux and then punch the shot, okay? So here I'm generating power from here, and then boom, right there I'm just punching out the shot and giving it a little bit of that, okay? So, it's highly unlikely that you're ever going to do all 5 of these things in one shot, but getting like little combination, like a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of the other one, you can make sufficiently strong shots. Okay? Other thing I want to talk about real quick is leading with your sword leg versus leading with your shield leg. Okay. So here, okay, I'm leading with my shield leg. All right. So I got shield leg here. I got a lot of defense forward. Okay. So with here, I'm able to throw my shots, okay, and my hand is like way behind on my shield. It's very covered, okay. But as far as the power generation, what's happening here is my shoulder is way back here, right? My shoulder's right back, but it's just naturally going to be back here, right? If the shield is forward, the sword's going to be back here somewhere. So I've got a lot more room for my arm to travel because my sword's back here. Now, what happens if you lead with the sword leg? Okay, so when I lead with the sword leg, which I will do a lot of times, well, what's happening is now this shoulder naturally wants to come forward. Okay, so if this shoulder naturally comes forward, well, like what do I have left now? Okay, because it's kind of hard to rotate my hips from here. I mean, I can rotate to that side, right? But if I'm really leaning from here, I mean, I can step into it. But one of the things I will do so I can generate power when I'm leading with my sword leg is I will take my shoulder and just cock it back. Okay, I can still cover my face up, right? So instead of my elbow being there, my elbow's way back here, right? Back here. Because from here, now I'm in a position, right? Because now my basket, right, is going to travel from here to here, right? If I start here, it's got no place to go. I got no way to build up momentum. If I cock my shoulder back over here, even though I'm leading with this leg, right, I'm cocking my shoulder back. I'm basically almost twisting myself back, right? So I'm here like this, which is good because it naturally brings the shield over like that, all right? So I'm starting with my shield here. My face is covered, right? So I'm in the position here. So that's done by bringing my shoulder back. And now I have, I'm in a position to fight with my arm back here. So even though the basket's forward, my shoulder's all the way back here. So I've got room to travel with this. Okay, so that's one of the one of the things that's often missed when people are leading with their sword leg, right, on the sword side. Okay, so if I'm here, arms back here. Now, unless I intend to basically step forward, right? If my plan, because let's say I'm fighting single stick, and this needs to stay in front of me, right? Because I'm going single stick for a single stick now, right? So if I'm fighting single stick, if I bring this back here, well, now I'm open over here. So this needs to stay in front of me. So now, yeah, how am I going to generate power now? So now I got to use one of the other methods. Okay, so one of the other methods from here, I might step into the shot. Okay, I might step to the side to generate power. Okay, I might close the hand. So that's why it's a good idea to have all these options and be aware of all these different ways to generate power. Okay. Now another thing I want to mention as far as rotating back and forth between these two things, these five options. Okay. if you're fighting, let's say, because a lot of times, like I said earlier, when people first start fighting, they naturally just want to swing their arm, and it gets really tiring really fast, and they're really slow. Okay, so people that will teach them to use their hips so that they're getting that power from someplace else besides just their arms. Okay, but as you get better, okay, watch what I'm going to do here. Right, so I'm here. Right, I'm here. So body, body, arm. Okay, so I changed the tempo there. Okay, so over here. Okay, I got body, body, arm. Okay, so there's an example of how you can use your arm to make a fast shot. Because if I'm just using my arm, right? If my entire fight is just arm, arm, each shot is going to be successively slower. As I get tired throughout the fight, each shot's going to be slower and slower and slower and slower, and my opponent's going to be able to see that. But if I start off with pulling power from somewhere else, like let's say my hip, right? So I'm hip, hip, and then when I arm the shot, the arm shot is faster, okay? So, you know, a lot of people will be like, when you first start fighting, people will tell you, oh, never just use your arms. Well, I think that they're just trying to like really impress that point upon you and trying to get you away from the thing that you're doing. But as you get better, right, and as you master the other techniques of power generation, you know, once you get to the point where you can hip, you know, where you can use your hip rotation, where you can step into a shot, where you can make your Milanese, and you can also, you know, you've also mastered, you know, generating power from your hand. At that point, you can also start arming some shots, right? You know, and kind of sneaking in some really fast shots, right? You know, where you're really throwing off the tempo, where you're like, I'm using my body here, so you got body, body, and then just arm and a little bit of closing my hand to get to the leg over there. Okay? So a couple of things for you to guys to think about, but those are the 5 different power generators that I've been able to kind of like categorize. There may be other methods out there, and by all means, you know, drop it in the comments, okay? Or you might even be able to take some of these methods and split them up into, you know, into additional ones. Like, you know, take one and just break it down into 2 different categories within one category. But yeah, if you guys got any additional thoughts, please put in the comments, and I'll talk to you all soon.